Hello guys, we are now in exercise 1F where we have initial equations. I'm solving all the questions there. Now, in my previous video, if you check my page, you will see that I've posted videos on how to solve equation of indices when the unknown is at the base and when the unknown is at the power. So let me just solve it. I'm solving questions time around, I'm not differentiating them. So let me solve the first question. How do you solve questions like this? What you do is that we look for the inversion of that power to multiply both sides of the equation, and that's why we call it an equation. The version of this is that what can remove that power from the unknown is actually 2. The inversion of 1 over 2 is what? 2. So we do it for both sides. So we now have x. So many people find it difficult to explain something like this. The inversion of this, you can see, as it stands now, that 2 will cancel out. So we now have x is equal to 2 raised to the power what? 2, because this one has cancelled out, which is equal to what? 4. So I'm getting x as what? 4, because 2 raised to the power 2 is. So the same thing we do. What can remove 1 over 3 from x is actually the inversion, which is going to be, don't forget, 1 over 3. We are going to use 3 to multiply both power. 3 will cancel 3, so we now have x is equal to 3 raised to the power 3, which is 27. We are done with that. Then the next one is the inversion of minus 1 is going to be minus 1 to multiply both sides, both power of the equation. That is exactly what we do, because if you multiply by the power of the minus 1, it's going to be plus 1, which will now make our a to be a we are looking for. So whatever you are doing to remove that power, that is what we do. So we now have a raised to power minus 1. We will introduce minus 1 equal to, remember you are doing it for both sides of the equation, that's why we call it an equation. So minus 1 times minus 1 will give us plus 1, which is the same thing as a. So a is equal to what? 2 raised to power minus 1. By our law of indices, what law of indices becomes what? 1 over 2 raised to power 1, which is the same thing as 1 over 2. So a is equal to what? 1 over 2. We go to the next. This one, in doing this one, remember we're having minus sign there and we also have it 2 there. So we're going to introduce two things. We're going to introduce minus sign. We're equally going to introduce the inverse form of it, which is 1 over 2, to remove it from there. So now a raised to power minus 2 times, there's no need of, we know what it stands for, 1 over minus 1 over 2. Remember you are doing for both sides of the equation. Minus 1 over 2. We introduce it to both sides of the equation. The power, I'm talking about the power now, don't forget. Minus and minus is what? Plus. So the 2 will cancel this 2. So we'll now say is equal to 9 raised to power minus 1 over 2. Remember our law, 1 over the number removing the minus sign, which is 1 over square root of what? 9, which is 1 over what? 3. So our a is 1 over 3. A is equal to 1 over 3. A is equal to 1 over 3. Don't forget that. A is equal to 1 over 3. We are seeing that. So let me see these questions. Let me see this question in YouTube so that I can have space to solve this other question. Now see, what we are having here, the first thing is to divide both sides by 2. 2x raised to power 3 equal to 54. Divide both sides by 2. You can go like that. The way we solve our simple equation. So we now have x raised to power 3 equal to what? 27. Then, what do we do to remove that 3 from the power of x? Remember, we are going to introduce 1 over 3, the inverse form of it. So we now have x raised to power 3, 1 over 3 for both sides of the equation. 1 over 3. So when we do that, we cancel out. So x becomes what? 27 1 over 3. Interpreting our system of indices, we now have what? 27, which will give us what? 3. So we can see that our x is equal to 3. X is equal to 3. X is equal to 3. That is exactly what we have. Go on. Don't forget, you have to continue with us. Go on to your other questions. See us in the next video.